he was a character. Andre was funny.
No one had one bad thing to say about him. He liked everybody, and they liked him.
The older he got, the bigger he got, and it like as time went on, it got a little harder to actually wrestle him down. But
he was a teddy bear. He was one of the guys that likes hugs. Likes to give everybody a hug.
Andre liked playing football. That was his main sport. That's all he was talking about was he wanted to play football. He wanted to play football. It's like he was just a gift.
Sometimes I still don't believe that I buried my little brother. Sometimes I still don't believe it.
I think young folks are prone to crashes because there's a sense that you're invincible and perhaps it's just not going to happen to you. Ignoring safety harnesses, using your seatbelt, distracted driving, using your cell phone to text and not paying attention to the road, aggressive driving, and just driving at a high rate of speed.
Since I've been in the collision reconstruction unit, I've investigated over 200 fatal crashes. Driving takes a lot of practice and know-how. So until they get that, they do end up making some mistakes, and that gets complicated most often by speeding.
I lost everything. I lost everything and everybody. They said when I went over the median, a Suburban hit me, killing Andre and putting a car over in the gravel. Everybody got out, and then they said it caught on fire. One accident just put everything out the window.
If it wasn't for the speed, this collision would not have happened. Mr. Marshall-Horsey, driving that Durango, was traveling at 90 miles an hour. And that vehicle was unable to maintain its safe travel on the roadway and actually began to yaw or lose itself on the roadway. He was charged with the reckless killing of his friend. And that recklessness was exhibited through the roadway evidence, the speed, the witness observations, but also based upon the conduct that he engaged in immediately preceding that crash. A short time prior to the collision, Mr. Marshall-Horsey was pulled over for engaging in aggressive driving behavior a short distance down that roadway. That was a fact that absolutely weighed into our decision on how to charge this case and ultimately how to resolve this case.
On April 12th, 2012, southbound on 301, when I observed a vehicle going in the opposite direction, passing traffic at a high rate of speed on the shoulder. I immediately turned my emergency lights on and made a U-turn to catch up to this vehicle. I approached the vehicle. I observed 4 teenagers inside the vehicle and requested the driver's license from the registration from the driver. I issued 2 tickets, one for passing on the right shoulder and the second for driving over a median. I told them to slow down and take care. Approximately 20 minutes after the stop, our dispatch advised us that 896 was going to be closed at the Summit Bridge for a serious personal injury crash. Speed is such a factor in crashes because you have less time to react and you're more likely to lose control of your car. The crashes that I've investigated, speed has always made the crashes worse.
A motor vehicle, in my view, it can be as dangerous as a missile or any other weapon of destruction. It's 2 tons of steel, and if not used properly, it's no different than firing a missile at people.
Speed is a factor in injury because when traveling at a high rate of speed, you're more prone to get into a crash, and following that crash, you're more likely to have more severe injuries.
There was somebody banging on my front door. One of the boys that was in the car with them, it was his mother at the front door, and she said, "There's been a car accident. We have to get to the hospital." When we got to the hospital, the doctor had told us that there had been a car accident, and his exact words were, "He didn't make it." And I said,
He said he was gone.
Who didn't make it? And he said, he's gone. I heard screams, and it was literally coming from me. But I was in such shock that it seemed like it was from somebody else.
Unfortunately, here at Christiana Care, we do see injuries in young patients as a result of distracted driving. Distracted driving crashes are severe because you're essentially driving with your eyes closed.
They're very preventable. They're very avoidable. If we can remove that distraction, then when the person's paying better attention, maybe they avoid a crash altogether.
The bottom line is that it could wait. The most important thing is safety. Getting yourself from point A to point B doesn't require the use of a cell phone.
That's something that you'll never forget, to see a little brother's lifeless body just laying there. It was a lot of trauma to his upper body along with his head, and I saw Andre laying there, and the first thing I could think of is why. Andre was looking forward to graduation. His initial plans were to go to prom, graduate, and go to college.
I had an entire list of people that I was going to invite to his graduation party. And that same list, I had to use that list to send out his death notice.
To date, it's very disturbing to me and alarming to the trauma society as a whole as to why folks, particularly young folks, continue to not buckle up.
I've seen many times where I believe a person would have survived a crash, or their injuries would have definitely been much less severe had they been seatbelted.
Seatbelts save your life, plain and simple. Seatbelt injuries are frustrating because it could make the difference between potentially walking away from a crash or ending up here at Christiana Care with severe injuries.
It was a kid. It was a 17-year-old kid. Normally when you go to funerals, it's people in their 50s, 60s, 70s. Not someone who's 17, especially someone who had everything going for him, especially, most important, which was something that could have been avoided. Clearly could have been avoided.
Yeah, I miss Andre all the time. He's my best friend. We was always together. People on our side, they take a lot of things for granted that you really shouldn't, like food, just being able to walk out your front door without no restraints. It's like eating cafeteria school lunch every day, 7 days a week. Me working in the kitchen, I witnessed how everything get cooked, how everything get made. Like if you was to see that, you ain't gonna want to eat that. My younger sister, she's my favorite. I don't know why, she's just my favorite. Every time I call home, she always she be like, I love you, Mar'Kese, can't wait till you come home, Mar'Kese. Are you about to come home, Mar'Kese? That stuff hit me. I miss my family. I'd do anything to be with my family right now.
Mr. Marshall-Horsey accepted responsibility. He pled guilty for his role in this collision. He pled guilty to the charges of manslaughter and assault in the second degree. Mr. Marshall-Horsey will serve a term of 5 years incarceration. And following that term of incarceration, he will be on probation, supervision by the court, to ensure that he's compliant with the basic rules of society and basic rules of the road.
Once the person is incarcerated, it's amazing how much people change when they've been incarcerated. I mean, it's the ultimate degradation, the ultimate degrading experience for somebody. I mean, there's something about a person that changes once they've been in prison. Believe me, it's not pleasant for anybody. Nobody wants to spend any time in there.
I get to see a lot of young kids who've never been locked up before, never had any kind of problems. And when they come to a place like this, it changes them. I mean, their life is pretty much forever altered. The amount of power that you have is much less than you would have on the outside. You have very little sense of control because almost everything is controlled by somebody else.
That's what they take for granted. They just out there moving too fast and they're not really understand what's really going on, not enjoying their life. Because when you come in here, they take all that from you. Take your pride go out the window for real.
You know, it never quite feels complete without Andre.
I just miss seeing his smile. When you think about Andre and you see his smile, that's the hardest part.
When you get a driver's license, it's not a right, it's a privilege. And you have to think about yourself and the other people that are out there too. Because when you get behind the wheel of a car, that's a machine. And that machine can kill.
See, when you first get your license, you're 16 years old. Ain't nothing a good driver about y'all. You just learning how to drive. You ain't gonna become a bad driver to a good driver and just like that. It's not gonna happen. You need to take your time. Don't think you're invincible.
I tell my daughters, drive like you want to stay alive. That's just all there is to it. If you're speeding and committing traffic violations, eventually it's going to catch up to you.
Think about tomorrow. It only takes 1 second for your life to be gone. And my family is experiencing that now.
Trust me, you don't want your parents to feel what we have to feel every day. Every day, for the rest of our lives, from now until we take our last breath. Every day with the loss of a child. Think about what you're doing when you get behind the wheel of a car. People do die. People are going to die. People will die. Think about what you're doing.